Okay, it looks like we're adding attendees. Fairly quickly. That's good. That's good to know. Okay. How about you give me maybe one more minute? We'll see how many, if the attendee admission slows down a bit. And then we'll go ahead and get started with this. Yeah, someone needs to tell me why the airplanes from the Sunport keep flying over my house these days. So I apologize for that background noise. and just hope that you don't have any of the military jets, because they're really loud and scary. Okay, so it looks like we have our candidates here. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started with this. Welcome to the Valencia County Candidate Forum, sponsored and conducted by the League of Women Voters of Central New Mexico. The League is recording tonight's forum and will post it to our website, www.lwvcnm.org. The video is the property of and copyrighted by the League of Women Voters of Central New Mexico. No person or entity is authorized to reproduce, edit, post, or otherwise use any portion of the video without the express written permission of the League of Women Voters of Central New Mexico. Before we get too far down the road, I would ask every candidate, certainly while they're on the screen, but preferably throughout the forum, to please turn off your cell phones or the ringer on your cell phones or any other device that you may have in your space that makes a sound. We don't want to be interrupted by telephone calls coming in. The only exception to that rule is our timekeeper. I am Mary H. Smith of the League of Women Voters of Central New Mexico, and I will moderate tonight's forum. Assisting tonight are League members, timekeeper Mary Templeton, and question reviewers Stacy Tompkins and Michelle Metters, and Linda Miller, the host of tonight's Zoom webinar and the handler of all technological details. Thank you, Linda, for doing that. We did that together last week, and it was quite an experience. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization whose membership is open to both men and women over the age of 16. We were founded more than a century ago in 1920, and our mission is to encourage informed and active participation in government and to influence public policy through education and advocacy. We neither support nor oppose political candidates or political parties. We are committed to voter education, and that allows people to become and remain informed and engaged voters. Tonight's forum is designed to help achieve that critical goal of voter education. I urge all voters to visit the League of Women Voters online voter guide to see information about all of your candidates and their answers to questions posed by the League. Go to vote411.org, enter your address, and choose which position and candidate about whom you would like to learn more. Vote411.org is a great resource for the upcoming general election. Hopefully everyone can see the slide on the screen that has the League of Women Voters logo and the vote411.org information. The format and rules for tonight's forum will be as follows. We invited all of the candidates to tonight's forum for the following Valencia County races. The New Mexico House of Representatives District 7, candidates Tanya R. Mirabal Moya. You want to wave at the attendees, please? Thank you very much. And Danny M. Bernal Jr. Thank you. And our second race that we had invited was the Valencia County Commission District 1, Gerard Seiss, and in District 3, candidates Sabrina Marie Sweeney and Morris R. Sparkman. Mr. Seiss from District 1 is unable to attend tonight, so we will just do the forum for District 3 candidates. Our next race is the Valencia County Assessor. Candidates Celia Dawn Dittmeyer and Beverly Dominguez Romero. Ms. Dittmeyer will not attend tonight. Thank you, Ms. Romero. And lastly, the last race that we invited to participate was a Valencia County probate judge. Candidates Wendy Emily Wallace and Helen Seiss. Neither one of those candidates are able to attend tonight, so we will not have that portion of our forum. Thank you all of the candidates for agreeing to share some time with us and helping to educate the voters about yourselves and your candidacies. In each of the 3 separate sessions, candidates will give their opening remarks, followed by a question and answer session and ending with a closing statement. We will start with the candidate for Valencia County Assessor, Beverly Dominguez Romero. This session will last for approximately 20 minutes. Second, we will have a separate session to hear from the candidates for Valencia County Commission District 3, Sabrina Marie Sweeney and Morris R. Sparkman. This session will last about 45 or so minutes. Finally, we will have a separate session to hear from the candidates for New Mexico House of Representatives District 7, Tanya R. Mirabel Moya and Danny M. Bernal Jr. This session will also last approximately 45 minutes. Now the rules for each session, and the candidates have heard this before, so I apologize for repeating it, but this is intended for the attendees. The rules for each session. First, the candidates will have up to 90 seconds to give their opening remarks. Second, I will ask questions of the candidates, giving each of them time to answer the same question in each round. The response time may vary depending on the number or complexity of the questions asked and the amount of time remaining, and I will inform everyone and the timekeeper of that response time before each question. I will ask questions submitted by the community to the League's email address for receiving questions and from the League's questions library. The League's question reviewers consolidated questions on the same topic or issue and may have rewritten the questions for clarity and focus. I may also do the same. I will ask the candidates as many questions about as many issues as time permits. I will likely ask some of the same questions in more than one session. Because this is not a debate, rebuttals by the candidates to each other's answers will not be allowed. I encourage the candidates to address your responses to the audience and not challenge, argue with, snipe at, or question each other. Candidates, you do not have to use all of your time for your responses. The less time you take, the more questions we can ask. And candidates, if you ask me to repeat the question, your allotted response time will start as soon as I begin restating the question. Please jot down the question as I ask it so you will not need to ask me to repeat it. Please understand that the questions asked tonight were reviewed and vetted only by the League of Women Voters, primarily by our question reviewers and me. Neither the questions nor the issues have been given to the candidates in advance of tonight's forum. Third and finally, at the end of each session, candidates will have 90 seconds to make their closing statements. I remind the candidates that the timekeeper is the most important person in this webinar, and you may not ignore her. When answering the questions, you must keep an eye on her. She will alert you to the time remaining for your answers, and you must stop talking when she holds up the sign that says stop. If you keep going, she will ring a bell and I will stop you. And there are no exceptions to that rule. During each session, the candidates for that particular race will be on screen as panelists. The candidates for the other races will remain in the webinar and will be removed into the audience as attendees. We will pause for a few moments between sessions to make sure everyone is present for their respective question and answer session. During tonight's practice session, the candidates drew numbers to determine the order in which they will speak. I will rotate the questioning so that the same candidate will not always go first. We're going to get started with the Valencia County Assessor session, and candidate Beverly Dominguez Romero will be our candidate that we will hear from. So while we wait for the other candidates to be moved into the audience, it'll just be Mrs. Romero and the timekeeper and the host and I on screen for this session. So we'll see the rest of you candidates in a few bits. Thank you so much. Okay, it looks like we've got Mrs. Romero on the screen. Mrs. Romero, would you like to make a 90-second opening statement, please?
Yes, please. Hello, Valencia County. Thank you for joining us this evening. Also, a big thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting this forum together. My name is Beverly Dominguez Romero. I am currently your county assessor seeking re-election. And I would like to tell you a little bit about my personal life. I am a lifelong resident of Valencia County. I graduated from Las Lunas High School and I reside in Tomei. I am married to Gilbert, and together we have 3 children and 8 grandchildren. And now I'd like to give you some information about my experience in the appraisal field. I have 30+ years in the assessor's office. I am a New Mexico State certified appraiser. I am a certified appraiser as well through the International Association of Assessing Officers. I have served 3 terms as assessor, including my current term. My first 8 years as assessor were from 1999 through 2006. I also worked for Taxation and Revenue Department, where I was a senior appraiser overseeing the assessors throughout the state of New Mexico. I also served as vice chair and secretary treasurer for the New Mexico Association of Counties. And I also served as the MRGCD Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District board member for Valencia County. Thank you. I can't hear you.
Thank you for that, Mrs. Romero. I appreciate that. Now I'll go to some questions for you and the county assessor's race. The first question, 90 seconds. How does the office of county assessor differ from that of the county treasurer?
The county assessor is dealing with just value, but yes, the value does determine your tax bill. So therefore, we are appraisers. We go out and view properties to make sure that they are being assessed correctly. Also, in my term this time, we did get a new aerial, which this aerial is going to allow us to make sure that every property is assessed. Boy, that 1 minute. We also, at the end of every year, we will turn over all these changes to the county treasurer, where then they will prepare the tax bill and mail it to the property owner.
Thank you. And the next question, and I believe I may have heard this during your opening remarks, or at least some of it, describe the qualifications and experience that have prepared you to be county assessor.
Like I said, I have 30+ years of experience in the appraisal field, also in the assessor's office. I also oversaw the assessors throughout the state of New Mexico as a senior appraiser. I also have worked for the assessor's office, not only as the assessor, but as an employee, which was manufactured home clerk, just a regular clerk, and an appraiser, which gave me all the knowledge that I have today to be able to prepare property values for the whole county.
Thank you. And the next question, 90 seconds as well. As county assessor, what will be your top 3 priorities and how will you carry out your plans for those?
My first priority is to hopefully get more staff, training, and I'd like to make it easier for the residents of our county to be able to come in, ask questions, possibly show them how to maneuver over anything we may have online. Because if you go to our website, everything is online. How I will try to do this is asking the commission for more money, which sometimes it goes well. I was able to get 5 new employees since I've been there, but that's just depending on how much money the commission has for any given year. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next question, also 90 seconds. How do you plan to maintain fairness and transparency in property valuations?
Fairness. What we do is property values are derived by sales in the area. Any property that does not sell is always looked at and possibly given a 3%. And this was implemented by our legislatures. So property values always do stay fair and equitable. Also, possibly we do encourage our taxpayers to come in and protest if they feel that there is an error in their notice of value. Notice of values go out once a year, and the property owner has 30 days to contact us, possibly set up a protest date, or just come in and talk to us and see if there is an issue or if we can help them by not going through the protest process.
Thank you. And the next question appears to be related to what you just said. How will your office improve valuation accuracy and lessen valuation protests?
I actually encourage protests because therefore we get to see if there are any areas that we may need to look at. We do try and go through the properties annually. We look at sales in the area. Now with the flyovers, we will have one or another one actually at the end of this year. And we will have another one next year. And like I said, these flyovers are going to let us know if there is an improvement out there that we have possibly missed, and we will get those on the tax roll. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I think I heard this earlier, but we'll give you 90 seconds for this question as well. In your opinion, does the county assessor's office currently have the staff and support to accomplish all that it must? If not, how will you ensure that it does receive sufficient staff and support?
I currently feel that we do need more staffing. We do and have come a long way since I took office in 2019. But like I said, it just depends on our budgets and the money we do have available for new hires, and that's throughout the county. So I will go through the commission to see if they will grant me more monies to hire more appraisers and just staff for the office.
Thank you. And the next question is, I'll also give you 90 seconds. Do you support working with the county treasurer to install property tax drop boxes throughout your county?
I would work with her. I don't know that we have any drop boxes. Maybe, I know they mail them and those payments go through, I want to say, one of our banks. As far as drop boxes, the only one I know of is actually at the treasurer's office, and that's through their door. I would encourage it. It's not a bad idea for those people who would like to come in and pay their taxes by check, of course, and are not able to come to our facilities. But that would be left up to the treasurer. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next question, 90 seconds also for this one. How would you maintain the confidentiality of the information to which your office has access, particularly surrounding residential sales information?
New Mexico is a self-rendering state and we're a non-disclosure state. Any documentations that we get when it comes to sales of property are stored in a separate file where no one has access to except the assessor's office. Other than that, everything that the assessor's office has is public record. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last question for you, and I'll also give you up to 90 seconds for this one. This may take a little bit more time for you to think about it. What distinguishes you from your opponent?
Well, I can tell you that I do have more qualifications to be county assessor. I have more years in the assessor's office and the appraisal field. I am a lifelong resident of this county. I plan on being here for the rest of my life, and I'm hoping that my experience will speak for itself. Thank you.
Alrighty. And so with that, we conclude the question and answer portion of your session. Now I'll give you 90 seconds to make your closing remarks.
Okay, thank you. Like I said, my name is Beverly Dominguez Romero, and I am currently your county assessor. I'm hoping I have earned your vote and support, and that you have listened to my answers to the questions that were given to me by the League of Women Voters. And you will be able to see that I am the most qualified for this position, and you will vote Beverly Dominguez Romero for assessor on election day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Mrs. Romero, I really appreciate your being here tonight and answering the questions that we've compiled for your race. So next we will move to the Valencia County Commission District 3 race. And so our host will do a little bit of switching up of the candidates on the screen. Again, thank you, Mrs. Romero. Okay, great. It looks like we have our two candidates on the screen. Welcome back. Now we're going to move to the Valencia County Commission District 3 race. And again, the candidates for this race are Morris Sparkman and Sabrina Sweeney. And drawing of numbers before the forum, Mr. Sparkman will go first, and he will present his opening remarks up to 90 seconds first, please.
Of course. Well, first of all, thank you guys for setting this up. It's a great opportunity to be able to talk and interact with folks who want to know more about the race. I do want to say there's a big storm outside, so if you hear thunder or the lights go out, I'm still here with you, but it's raining pretty good outside. Like Mary had said, my name is Morris Sparkman. I'm running for county commissioner in District 3 down here in Valencia. And I get asked a lot, why do I want to run, right? Why have you decided to do this? And the big reason is, I was the kid who grew up here who said, well, I don't ever want to be here. I have to go, I have to experience something else. And so I went up to school in Denver. And then right around the time I was about to graduate, I thought to myself, well, why did I want to leave? What was so wrong with home? Because when I was up at school, I missed home. And after some self-reflection, it was, the answer that I think most of us come to, it's because it's home, right? You want to be at home, but you didn't like the situation that you saw. You didn't like the fact that we had low infrastructure. You didn't like the fact that crime rate was crazy. You didn't like that the response rate was crazy. So I came back to make a difference, to help put forward solutions that'll make it an environment that people like how I was want to come back and stay to make New Mexico better. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mrs. Sweeney, your 90-second opening remarks, please.
First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for allowing me this opportunity. For those that may not know me, my name is Sabrina Sweeney, and I'm running to be the next County Commissioner in District 3. Ever since I was a small kid, my parents, Ronnie and Barbara Torres, instilled in me a sense of passion to serve. Whether it was when my dad was the mayor of Belen or when my parents were on the Chamber of Commerce, I got to tag along and help make our community a better place. As an adult, I've continued to be an active community member, helping to operate my family's small business, Hair Innovations, and volunteering for various organizations, including Our Lady of Belen Catholic Church, St. Mary's School, H2 Academic Solutions, and other youth-focused programs. It's this passion that I have that I want to pass on to my 4 daughters to show them the satisfaction that comes with serving our community. If elected, my priorities would be simple: our families, our farms, and our future. Families, I will continue to make Valencia County one that embraces all generations and is a great area to raise a family with accessible public spaces to create memories. Farms, I will protect Valencia County's vital farms and ranches by protecting water for agricultural use so that families can continue to prosper in the legacy that their families have built. Future, I will work to ensure that we invest in Valencia County's growth where we can support it and expand options and opportunities for residents while preserving our county's rural way of life. I'm excited for this opportunity to work hard for the people of Valencia County, and I hope to earn your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll start with the first question. And for this question, we will start with Mrs. Sweeney. And the first question is this, and it will be 90 seconds for your response. The first question is, how have your experience and education prepared you for this office?
So my experience is, just like I said, I've grown up ever since I was little. My parents have been involved in volunteering in many different organizations around Valencia County. So they were very involved in the Chamber of Commerce. And so that meant that I got to help put on community events and see my parents networking with people. I got to listen to the conversations that were at home with the struggles that were had, right? When you were trying, my dad would be trying to help move a problem forward and find a solution, and realizing that things aren't always simple like we think. They have, there's an intricate weave and a process that has to happen. And it takes all of us working together and being willing to be active listeners to each other and to those who are closest to the problem so that we can get efficient solutions to those problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sparkman, 90 seconds, please.
Well, I think, my education and experience have played a big role in it, right? As an engineering manager, all I do is make decisions. As a county commissioner, you have to make decisions based off of budget, based off timeline, based off the stakeholders, community residents. And that's really what it comes down to, is being able to make a decision based off of the information that you have, and making it that such that it's going to help the community, right? I mean, you're not going to make everybody happy, but as long as you make sound judgment to preserve our fiscal liquidity, to make sure that our county is being taken care of, I don't see there being any downside to that. And then experience-wise, there's just, over the last few years, I've had the experience to work with the commission on several different issues, and so it's been the case where I can hit the ground running on day one. There's not going to be this steep learning curve. It's applying what I do day to day in my job, while also building on the experience and the understanding that I've gotten from working with county commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next question will also be 90 seconds, and we will start with you, Mr. Sparkman. Name one of the biggest problems facing the county today and explain how it should be handled.
One of the biggest issues that we have with the county today is the fact that it's such a large county, specifically even District 3. It's so large that it's very difficult to get resources out to these more rural communities. You have Highland Meadows, you have Tierra Grande. It's very difficult to get services out there, right? Whether it's fire, police, medical, whatever it ends up being. And the big thing I think to counteract that is definitely we have to look at these places and say, hey, look, we don't have a lot of folks that live there, but we have these people who are still here. And to make that work, we need to improve our infrastructure. We need to build upon the good work that the commission's done already to make sure that we don't go backwards, that we keep going forward. So if you can get to a house where there needs to be medical attention or there's fire or police issues, then that's going to be easier to do on a paved road than some washboard dirt road, right? And so that's going to come down to budget allocation and making sure that we put our money where our mouth is, making sure that we take care of our often forgotten outer regions of this county. And it's just something that can definitely be done.
Thank you. Mrs. Sweeney.
Yes, so I think one of the biggest problems facing our county today is crime. I mean, we have so many crimes that happen just listening to neighbors or working at the salon, hearing clients that come in. You realize people are worried when they drive around and they just don't feel safe to go to public spaces if they just aren't comfortable, right? So I think the solution to that is working together, because crimes don't just happen in one city. They're happening all across Valencia County. So it's not just a Los Lunas criminal or a Belen criminal. They are crossing all of these borders. And so working together with our police force to make sure that they have the resources necessary to help get these criminals off the street. And then also, before the people get into this life of crime, right? The resources for our youth, which H Squared Academic just opened a Rocket Teen Center, and they have so many resources like the Child Advocacy Center that engages youth before they become criminals, so that we can kind of have a solution to these problems before they become problems, right? So for me, that is the biggest issue, is having a community that we all can feel safe in. And I would definitely agree. Living further out in the county, like Highland Meadows.
Thank you. Thank you. The next question, we will start with you, Mrs. Sweeney, and we'll give you 90 seconds for this. What should the county do to support economic development?
Ooh, I love this. So what the county can do to support economic development is actively listening to its community members and the businesses that are already there. What do they need from our county government? You know, what resources and support can they have so that everybody's not reinventing the wheel when they create a business? There is so many similarities between starting a business, running a business, and there is a new business incubator that opened up in rural communities. And I think that many of our community members don't realize how many assets we actually have here in Valencia County. We are very lucky to have so many options. I just think that when they come to the commission, they need to realize that they're there for support, and we are there to support them in whatever their business opportunities are. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sparkman.
Yeah, I definitely think that it's reaching out and finding out what resources are there and talking with community members. But I think it's more important too that we create an environment that it's conducive in the county for people to do business here, right? And so that goes down to education. What can we do to improve that? Infrastructure. How can we do that? How can we fix crime? How do we get better access to these resources? You know, a few weeks ago, I guess probably a few months ago now, the commission passed an overlay zone that allowed for oil exploration. And you know that was against what a lot of the community members wanted. I wasn't on the commission, so I didn't make that decision. But it's figuring out what's good for Valencia County, what works here, and how can we make it be profitable such that more business want to come down here, families want to live here. It's not just a commuter neighborhood, and that really will benefit us in the long run.
Thank you. And the next question also will be 90 seconds for your answer. And we will start this answer session or answer with Mr. Sparkman. Here's the question. Are broadband and internet access adequate throughout the county? If not, what can county government do to improve access? 90 seconds, Mr. Sparkman.
So it's absolutely not up to snuff. I mean, in this day and age with COVID just happening and rocking everybody, we found out where our shortfalls were at when it comes to internet access for our more rural communities in the county. And so working with our federal resources, with our state delegation in Congress, the county, it's a lot of work, but the county can get it done to make sure that their residents have access to that. There's plenty of grant programs that the county has recently started going after with their new grant writing department. And it's just about getting the funds to do it and getting the resources to do it. But that's absolutely what we need to do in this world where now, right, we're having a forum over the internet. There's a lot of people who can't do that. And whether it's paying your bills, whether it's your kid getting an education, whether it's just you connecting with family and friends, we need to have access to that. And so being proactive at the county level as a county commissioner, I can get that done, right? Like I had mentioned, using our resources, reaching out, and being the greasy wheel that gets the oil. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Sweeney.
Yes, so is broadband internet adequate in the county? No, absolutely not. We have had 4 daughters that were online during the pandemic, and so having that reality in our home, and my husband was working from home, there's just not enough broadband internet in Valencia County, and we live in rural communities where it's actually pretty good. So move out to Tierra Grande or Highland Meadows, Monterey Park, even Las Maravillas. We were just out there for this last weekend, and my phone didn't work. So what I thought is, I don't think that it is appropriate that our community members have to pay for cell service and internet and a landline, because if they had options for a good cell service provider, they could use that as a hotspot. But we didn't even get great cell service out there. So going after the federal infrastructure money that's just been allocated, we can get broadband distributed throughout the county. And it's definitely something that we need with medical appointments that are happening over the internet. Those are something that you can't have your internet cutting in and out when you're trying to speak to your doctor. And just like this, a forum, people need internet access, and it's a necessity in this day and age. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next question, we will start with you, Mrs. Sweeney. Also 90 seconds for your answer. How can the county commission ensure good stewardship of your groundwater?
So the county commission can ensure good stewardship of our groundwater by making sure that that is one of our biggest priorities that we protect. We need to make sure that we are utilizing it for our farmers and our ranchers. Those are our largest asset here, and they're here living off of the land and passing this down through the generations. And so they need the water protected. All of us who just live here, the drilling and fracking that they're doing exploratory research into, I don't approve of that. I don't think that anyone that lives anywhere close to drilling or fracking, I don't think that they would want that in their backyard. And I definitely don't want that in my backyard. Our fault lines are too close, and I just don't think that the risks outweigh the benefit, or that the benefits outweigh the risks, sorry. But yeah, water is definitely our largest asset. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sparkman.
I think the best way the commission can approach this is, right, when we're thinking about expansion and economic development and what do we do and what do we don't want to have here in Valencia County, that's something's got to be taken account of, whether it's, big companies coming in checking for oil, or whether it's just the mom and pop shop that dump their, used car oil in the ground and just leave it. It's a very difficult issue. And I think that with how water rights are going and the usage and the issues that we're having already, it gets more and more important. And so as a commissioner, my goal is to make decisions based off the information that I have, based off what I know what the constituents want from interacting with them and talking to them. But I definitely agree that, preserving our water for our farmers, for our ranchers, for our just way of life, regardless of whatever it is that you do, everybody's got to turn on the tap or take a shower. But if your water is contaminated, that doesn't work. So as a commissioner, I would always have that in the front of my mind of, well, does this do more good than harm? Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is also a 90-second answer. We will start with you, Mr. Sparkman. If a proposal came before you to build or acquire a new piece of public infrastructure, such as a major land parcel, roadway, or buildings, how would you evaluate whether the project was worth implementing? 90 seconds, Mr. Sparkman.
Sure. I think that that's a very straightforward decision on that part. It's, how does this benefit the county? How does it hurt the county? And what is the purpose of this major infrastructure purchase, right? Are we expanding the jail like they want to do? Are we trying to develop a park? Are we trying to, set it up such that we can bring in more attractive businesses to our community? I think it's a very straightforward decision based off of that. It's not nefarious in any way. I don't believe. It's just, if you have all the facts and the county has a direction that they want to go with it, then let's go with it, as long as it benefits the county and it's not going to hurt folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sweeney.
So let's see, if I was faced with a problem like that, my first question would be, again, what value does it bring to the community? What alternatives do we have to this? And what resources do we already have as a county that this might be competing with? I think also listening to what our community members are wanting, and then realizing how much of our community is this going to benefit, and how far along into the future is this going to be a valuable asset for us. Those are the things that I would think of. Also looking to the experts. I mean, everything that comes before us, there's going to be an expert in that field. I'm not going to be the expert in it. I'm going to ask the questions, trying to make the best decisions for the people who have voted me in. That's my job, is to make sure that I'm doing the best job and asking the right questions, the hard questions, to make sure that our tax money and our taxpayers are being used effectively and to the best of the county's ability. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. The next question appears to be very, very specifically local. So I'm going to give you both 90 seconds to answer this. And we're going to start with you, Mrs. Sweeney. What measures can a county commission put in place to ensure that the fire department's desperately needed expansion with American Rescue Plan Act funding remains sustainable once that funding expires? 90 seconds, Mrs. Sweeney.
So I think what we can do to make sure that all of that is sustainable is by being smart and strategic with what we spend that money on. So when you are given money, just like when you're running a household or a business, you want to spend it wisely. You don't want it to be like just the pretty shiny thing. You want it to be something that you're going to be able to utilize for years to come, and something that's going to be of benefit to the most people. So I think utilizing the money efficiently, and then listening to our fire departments. They're the ones with the boots on the ground, and so they need to be with a seat at the table so that we can understand what they need and what they're lacking in their daily routines, or daily firefighting daily firefighting, I guess, situations, what is it that they need from us, and how can we best utilize the money for the future? That's what I would think, is they're going to be the ones that have an idea for that. And so that's who I would listen to. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sparkman.
Yeah, I think now we're in a very good economic place where we can take advantage of these full funds, make the improvements that we need to, make sure we get the equipment that we need to. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we can cut a paycheck to the fire and the EMS, or excuse me, the EMT service. And that just comes down to fiscal responsibility. That makes sure that our priorities are lined up correctly. Right now, the Sheriff's Department gets 48% of the county's budget. You heard from Mrs. Romero earlier, you got the assessor asking for money, the treasurer asked for money. It's where do we want to put our resource allocation? Where do we want to improve or enhance or spend more? And that really is going to come down to making sure that we have the right equipment that's going to have to last us a while. It's going to come down to making sure that our county fire department and medical services feel like they're valued, that they're appreciated, and that's going to attract better talent that comes down as well. And so it's really about how do we spend our money? And if they want to come down, and we want to make sure that we have access to, quality, responsive firefighting and EMT services, then we're going to have to put our money where our mouth's at. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question also relates to the American Rescue Plan Act. And the next question, we will start with you, Mr. Sparkman, and I'll also give you 90 seconds for this one. Here's the question. How should the county raise funds to maintain the newly created public record system for which the American Rescue Plan Act funding will be received?
So it comes down to economic development. That's the only way that we're going to be able to raise the kind of money that we need to sustain all these additional services that we have. And so if we provide, an environment where businesses want to come down here, if we provide an environment where families want to move down here, that tax revenue goes to fund all these projects that, will run out of funding shortly after, a period of time. And so it's about making Valencia County inviting while preserving our heritage, so that we can continue to receive more funds, so we can continue to generate those tax dollars and where people want to do business at. And I think it's very straightforward. There's no need to increase taxes. We're already one of the poorest counties. There's no reason for that, and to hurt families every day with inflation going through the roof. It's how do we bring down and attract businesses that are going to help our community, that then continue to support the services that we have in place.
Thank you. Mrs. Sweeney.
Thank you. So I think a great way for us to increase our revenue is to increase our tax base. So how do we do that? We get people to want to move here by creating a space and a community that people feel like, wow, that's really somewhere that I think I could raise a family. I feel like that's somewhere that I have job opportunities, and I feel like I could enjoy, the quality of life down there. That is how we can expand our tax base. And then also by working with our legislators in Santa Fe, by showing them that we are already good stewards of the money and the capital outlay funds that they give us, showing them that we use it adequately and efficiently and in a timely manner with great results. I think that sets us up for getting more funds from Santa Fe in the future. Also, our gross receipts tax. So if we have opportunities for businesses to come and we have these resources for people to start businesses, then that's going to increase our gross receipts tax. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sparkman.
I think I just got your question.
Okay, right. I'm sorry. So you'll start this next answer, Mr. Sparkman, and I'll give you 90 seconds for this as well. How would you support the volunteers who sit on the county's boards and commissions? And what steps would you take to ensure continued participation by these community members? 90 seconds, please.
So Mary, I just started the last one, so maybe Sabrina wants to take this one.
Oh, you're right. You're
Yes.
right. Thank you so much. I'm sorry. Mrs. Sweeney.
All righty. Thank you. So I think respecting our volunteers that are on our boards, right? Showing them that we are appreciative of them and they're volunteers. So we should be very grateful for them putting forth their energy, their time, their focus to making Valencia County somewhere that we can all enjoy. Listening to what their concerns are or the challenges that they're facing on their boards or in their positions. Those are something that's going to get people to feel like, okay, they have the support of the commission. The commission wants to work with them, right? And wants to support these boards and support these members who are actively volunteering, because it's not an easy job to volunteer. So, and it's not very easy to get people to volunteer. So when we have volunteers who are putting forth the work and who are there showing up every day, I think just giving them the respect and the listening ear and asking them what they need from us, that's how we keep them involved. And that's how we encourage more people to start to sign up. Thank you.
All right, Mary, you're on mute, but I'm guessing it's my turn. So, you know, as an alternate to the Older American program here in Valencia County, I know how difficult it is to, one, find volunteers, but then also two, to keep them, and how hard it is when you don't have institutional support. You know, the volunteers are really what make the community special. They're what make Valencia County special. They're the ones, they're the movers and shakers, right? We're only in office for a few years at a time, but they're there for many years. And because it's something they're passionate about, that they care about. And so we need to listen to them. We need to make sure that they feel like their voices matter and that their time is worth something. You know, I don't think that there's anything bad that's going on in the county now, but I definitely know that there are things that we can improve on. And whether that's, you know, more meetings, whether that's just an, you know, volunteer appreciation day, whether that's, you know, just sitting down and taking out somebody for lunch or coffee. I mean, we can do these small little signs of gratitude that are going to prove valuable. And as a county commissioner, your time is pretty important. So if you go to their volunteer meetings during the day or in the afternoon or whenever, that's really gonna speak volumes, because it shows that you care and that you're interested in what they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for noting I was on mute. I don't know how that happened. And I believe this next question, both of you already addressed to a certain extent previously, but I'm going to give you 60 seconds for this response. And we will start with Mr. Sparkman for this one. What are strategies you would use to include more community participation in the county's government operations? 60 seconds.
It's okay, no problem. It's being transparent with it, giving enough notice so folks can come in. It's scheduling meetings and important functions such that it's not the middle of the day when most people are working. It's a time where, you know, if they're on their way home, they can stop by, have their input heard and listened to. And it's just making the county government more part of the people, instead of this, oh, well, there's a government, we all hear, we've all said it. Just be more transparent. Say, hey, look, listen, I'm your county commissioner. You want to come and complain about something? I'll listen to you. I don't care about what time of day it is. And it's just making sure people are heard and that making sure folks feel like their input is valued.
Thank you, Mrs. Sweeney.
There we go. Thank you. So I think the strategies that I would use are things that I'm already doing. I think just welcoming people, letting them know that what they say has an importance and has an impact in our community and in our places of government. When people feel like they're valued and their opinion matters, and when they are wanting to volunteer and you encourage them and you let them know, like, hey, thank you for showing up today, that alone takes a lot of effort. I think that just increases them to come back morefold. And then also actively pushing out information. So I think as a county, not having to have people come and question you, but pushing out that information through any avenue we have, right? Social media, websites, the news bulletin, just giving maybe monthly updates on, hey, these are the updates on the hospital. These are the updates on, thank you.
Thank you. The next question I think I'm going to go back to 90 seconds for response time if I don't trip the timekeeper up too much with that. So 90 seconds for this response, and we will start with you, Mrs. Sweeney. What do you see as the most pressing needs for infrastructure or capital projects within the county?
So I think the most pressing need is our hospital, right? Everybody's talking about the hospital. It's a hot button issue. So we've been graciously given $50 million for us to build this hospital, which that is a gift. We need to utilize it in a timely manner. We need to utilize it efficiently and make sure that as the next step in the process comes up, that we're prepared and we're ready to move forward with it. And then also making sure that all of the funds are spent correctly. I know the RFP, came in. We have a provider that has come forward. So making sure that we stay on top of this situation is our top priority. We need to make sure that this hospital happens and that maybe it's not going to be exactly what all of us have envisioned, but we can grow upon it later. Let's get this money and this hospital to come to fruition so that we can all have healthcare closer to our homes and enjoy being able to just go, well, not enjoy, I guess, because if you're going to the hospital, you're not going to be enjoying it, but not having to drive all the way to Albuquerque for hospital access or for healthcare access, being able to just go down the street if it's at 12 o'clock at night or 2 o'clock in the morning. That, with 4 daughters and tons of nieces and nephews, that is a top priority in my life. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sparkman.
Yeah, I mean, there's been dozens of people who ran on getting the hospital done, and we do have a great opportunity to use this money before it expires next year. And that's in the process. That ball is rolling, and we're going to make sure that we carry it over the finish line, right? And so that's great. We're going to get it done. But there's also more infrastructure stuff. There's just day-to-day stuff. So, for example, there's a bridge over the railroad in Morales that has started that is critical, right? The hospital is going to take a while. We'll get it done, but it's going to take a while. But at that point, when the trains are sitting on the tracks for 4 or 6 hours, and there's one way in, one way out, then what do you do? And so let's making sure that we can at least get access now with whatever resources that we have to help folks. I mean, 6 hours is a long time if you're having a heart attack. It's a long time if you broke an arm. It's a long time if you cut your finger too bad. So yeah, it's pushing forward not only the hospital, but also making sure that our communities have accesses to the healthcare and the services that we have in place now.
Thank you. The next question, how about also 90 seconds? And we will start with you, Mr. Sparkman. The bosque is a valued resource. Trees and wildlife are being threatened by drought and efforts to decrease the fire danger. What steps need to be taken to preserve the bosque?
So I definitely think that that's a very big concern for our community. And it comes down to the water usage issue. It comes down to land management issue. And those are things that are going to take folks who know what they're doing. It's going to take folks who understand the issues, who work with them every day to figure out how do we conserve this very unique aspect of New Mexico and especially Valencia County. That's kind of what makes it special, is that you can go up on the high desert in the afternoon, but then in the morning you go down, you can just take a walk in the bosque. And so at that situation, I think the commission, working with the Conservancy, working with the state, and even in some cases the federal government, we could take steps and bring in experts that will help. I know that I've heard a lot of times that in areas along the state, specifically around the Rio Grande, they've used goats to come in. They're very natural. They clean up all the underbrush that cause the issues with fires. And it's just making sure that we have our priorities straight and listening to the experts in those particular fields.
Thank you, Mrs. Sweeney. Okay, it appears that Ms. Sweeney was frozen. Let me see if we can get her back in the next Few seconds.
See, it
Yeah.
was that broadband that you were talking about.
Yes,
It's not very
yes.
good.
I was just gonna say, obviously, it is a huge issue where we're at, right? So, is it my time to answer the question?
Yes, yes, please, thank you.
Okay, awesome. So I think the strategies that we can use, my daughters, we went to the field trips that Whitfield had this last summer. And so they went to Bosque del Apache, the Seviera Wildlife Refuge, and then here there's the Rio Bajo Conservation Area. And so what they said is they are looking forward to what's happening in the southern part of New Mexico, because those climates are what's eventually going to happen to Valencia County. And so what their tactics are is they're thinning out the river, right? So they thin out the bosque and they clear out the salt cedar, because those, whenever there is a fire, the salt cedar burns much hotter than any other vegetation. They are also an invasive species. So if they clear out a lot of the salt cedar, then if there is a fire, it's not going to just demolish our bosque and all of the wildlife that's there. So listening to the experts in the field and then working together with our ranchers and our farmers for them to be able to maybe have some goats and let them graze for the underbrush. Those are all options, you know, that we could use. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mrs. Sweeney, are you able to join us by video?
I am trying right now.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, I think I'm going to make this 60 seconds. And I see the timekeeper nodding, so I think that's okay. And Mrs. Sweeney, we'll start with you. As a citizen, what have you done that impacted or made a difference in Valencia County? 60 seconds, please.
So as a citizen, what I've done and impacted Valencia County is I volunteer on, I've volunteered on many different boards. So the Martin Luther King Commission, I was a part of that for about 2 years, helping them, you know, plan those events. And then also I'm very active with St. Mary's School. I run a nonprofit. And so what I did this last year, and this was, I guess, just for the kids that are able to go to school there, but I was able to raise in a month $30,000 and to get a new playground equipment and got it installed. And that was within a 3-month time frame. Also, I work very closely and am always staying in contact with H² Academic Solutions. Like I said, they run many different programs for our youth in the community. That is the RACS program, the different
Mrs.
resources for, is that time? Sorry.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Can you
thank
not
you.
see the timekeeper?
I can't see the timekeeper. I can see you.
Oh,
I'm going to log off and then I will log on to the other on my computer, but I can't do it on both. Sorry.
okay, okay. Mr. Sparkman, did you want to answer that question? 60 seconds?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, I think it's volunteering time. I think that's why it's very important to Sabrina and I that we make sure that the volunteers feel valued, that their voice is being heard. You know, being able to serve on the Older Americans program has been a very unique experience. It's been a great opportunity to meet some fantastic people, you know, who even in their advanced years still care about their community, still want to get out and be involved. You know, and I feel very humbled to have the opportunity to be able to be part of that. And it's just, you know, I don't like to take credit for things that I think that most people should do, or, you know, everybody should do at least once. But yeah, I definitely think that's been a great experience, and it's been very humbling, and I hope that the people of Valencia County appreciate it.
Thank you. The next question will also keep at 60 seconds. And we will start the answering here with Mr. Sparkman. How will you deal with fellow commissioners and the county manager when there are significant disagreements when making decisions?
So that's kind of the fun thing about democracy is you got to learn how to work in a group. And I know that's our least favorite thing to do, especially in school. But it's listening to them, right, and not being reactionary. It's presenting your argument. And if people go with you, great. And if they don't, then that's okay. I mean, that's just the part of working with other people. Specifically county manager, we just want to, he's in there day in, day out. He knows what the county needs. He knows what the specifically county government and their employees. And it's listening first and then talking second.
Thank you, Mrs. Sweeney.
So absolutely. I think for me, that's one of my favorite things. I love to have discussions with people who don't agree with me because I'm not going to know everything. That's not my job. That's not humanly possible for each of us to be an expert in everything. So listening to my fellow commissioners and hearing what their opinion is from their side of the aisle and maybe from the county manager, they are the ones that are there every single day listening and seeing what's happening in the county. And so that's definitely who we need to give them our support. We need to give them the help and the resources available to them whenever we are able. But listening to other people, and especially those that don't agree with me, that's my favorite, because we need to work together. That all of us are in this community as one, right? So what benefits one of us is going to benefit the rest. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to try to squeeze in a couple more questions before we get to closing statements. So the next question will also be 60 seconds. And we will start with you, Mrs. Sweeney, for this one. If you are not elected, what would you do to try to help work on the ideas or issues that are important to you?
If I'm not elected, I'll continue doing what I'm doing currently. I will volunteer anywhere that I see a need. I will continue calling county commissioners. I'll be in contact with them to say, hey, this is a issue that I desperately support. Please listen to me. Please support this issue. If I'm not elected, then I think I would just focus my energy into maybe the same things, just in a different avenue, right? So what I want to do is make this place a better community for all of us to be and live as citizens. And so you can do that as a citizen every day. It's just you have a little bit more of a voice when you're on county commission. But I can still use my voice to persuade the county commissioners that are already on the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sparkman.
Oh, I'm going to be calling Sabrina every day then. It's just, I think what she said, it's staying involved still. I'm still going to raise a family here. I'm still going to live here. I'm still going to work every day, in whatever little way to be better, even if it's just being a different example, even if it's taking in, the neighbor kid across the street who's having issues, just needs to talk to somebody else. It's the little things that you do about your neighborhood, about your community that are, I think, the most important. Right, we could be commissioner for 8 years, but that's not going to move things as much and as deeply and as meaningful for a lot of folks than just interacting with them and being that person and just being, around them to say, hey, look, listen, I don't like it either, but this is what we're going to do. This is our avenues. This is how we're going to show and make our county better.
Thank you. And this will be the last question, and it'll also be 60 seconds. And we'll start with Mr. Sparkman for this one. If you had all the money you needed to fund one project in Valencia County, what would that project be?
I'm glad I got it first because Sabrina would say the same thing. I would definitely fund the hospital. And that way that we don't have to worry about the, the government money. We don't worry about the state money. Let's do it the way that we need it to be done. Let's make sure it's staffed correctly. Let's make sure that we have access to it. Let's make sure that it's, environmentally friendly. Let's make sure all the things that are in the RFP come to pass, and let's make sure that it's sustainable. Let's make sure that it can keep going long after, off the commission, or just long after, any of us are around. Something that's meaningful to our community, something that is valuable to our community, and something that's going to really improve Valencia County.
Thank you. Mrs. Sweeney.
All right, so Morris took that one. I'm gonna say I would fund our police department, our sheriff's department, give them absolutely every resource that they would need. And that includes part of the hospital, right? So for me, that's mental health, that's counseling services, that is therapy sessions for kids that need it, for families that need it, supportive resources for these families that have faced generational traumas. And so they can have the means and the power within their grips to rise above and to create a better life for them and their family. But also by giving our police department and fire departments everything that they need to help protect us as citizens, so that we can feel safe, and so that our police officers are willing to come here and they are well trained and given the support that they need to work well. That's what I would do. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll go to the closing statements by each one of the candidates. This will be 90 seconds, and we'll start with you, Mrs. Sweeney.
Again, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for organizing this forum. I'd like to thank Morris for participating with me, and all the other candidates for engaging in this discussion. I love Valencia County and I love to see it prosper. My name's Sabrina Sweeney and I'm running for Valencia County Commissioner in District 3. This is the largest district in the county by land area, and it includes Monterey Park, Las Maravillas, the City of Real Communities, the southern part of the City of Belen, the West Mesa, and more broadly, the southern part of the county, including Pueblitos, Bosque, Jarales, Casa Colorada, and Tierra Grande, as well as Highland Meadows in the northwest part of the county. Since I was a child, I've learned the importance of working together and networking effectively to solve challenges in our community. And I am most excited to work for our families, our farms, and our future of Valencia County. I have the experience and the passion to move the county forward. And if you'd like to learn more, follow me on Facebook, Sabrina Sweeney for County Commission. Thank you all for your time, and I hope to earn your vote in November.
Thank you. Mr. Sparkman, your closing.
Yeah, I would definitely echo Sabrina's opening statements with that. Thanks for the League of Women Voters. Thank you to Sabrina for being here. Sorry I took your answer. It's good. It's a great opportunity to be able to run for something. It's very exciting, and I really appreciate the efforts that everybody puts in. Whoever wins at the end of the day, I think it's very beneficial. The commission's come a long way in the last 10, 15 years, but we need to continue that momentum. We need to continue that progress. We need to make sure that our community stays where it's at in terms of, our quality of life, but then also improves. We don't need to go backwards. We don't need to go back to the days of, the good old boy club of, well, I know this person and I know that person. We need real ideas and people who are willing to work together. We do have the largest district in the county, and I've been all across it, as I'm sure Sabrina has as well. But at the end of the day, we need somebody who's going to hit the ground running. We got to make sure that, we have the skill set available to continue to help the commission while simultaneously being able to help our county move forward. My name is Morris Sparkman, running for County Commission District 3. Anything you need to know about me is on morrissparkman.com. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank both of our candidates for this session, Morris R. Sparkman and Sabrina Marie Sweeney. Thank you very much for participating. And I'm glad we got you back, Mrs. Sweeney, after the broadband issue that we had.
We'll fix it. Don't worry.
Okay. So what we're going to do is to pause for a few moments and move you two back into the audience and bring up our candidates for the New Mexico House of Representatives. Thank you both. There we go. I think we've got our two candidates here. So now we're going to move to the session for New Mexico House of Representatives District 7. And our candidates for this race are Tanya Mirabal Moya and Danny M. Bernal Jr. And we drew numbers during the practice session, and Mrs. Moya is selected to go first. So I'll have you start off with your opening remarks for up to 90 seconds, Mrs. Moya. Thank you.
First of all, thank you so much for doing this. I am brand new to all of this stuff, so this is pretty exciting. And thank you, League of Women Voters, for hosting this forum and giving us a chance to speak to our constituents. My name is Tanya Mirabal Moya, and do not worry if you can't say Mirabal, because my husband can't even say it. So you can say Mirabal too, that's okay. So, but I am a high school teacher here in Belen, and I am a mother of 4 and married to the most amazing man in the entire world. Actually, it was my 4 children, or one of my 4 children, that got me to seriously consider and actually decide to run. He actually moved out of the state. He is 24 years old, and he moved out of the state, and he was so frustrated and sick and tired of the condition of our state. And so he told me, Mom, why don't you come to Texas with me? And I said, no, I've lived in several other states, and I will never leave New Mexico again. New Mexico is my home, so I will do what it takes in order to make New Mexico a place where our young people no longer feel like they have to leave in order to be successful. And so that is the reason why I am here today, and that is the reason why I'm asking for everybody's vote.
Thank you. Mr. Bernal.
All right, thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event and letting us talk. If you don't know me, my name is Danny Bernal Jr. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem of the city of Belen, and my ancestral roots run deep here in Valencia County and New Mexico. I was born in Albuquerque. I was raised in Belen. I'm a native New Mexican. I was raised on a decaying street that hadn't been fixed for 30 years. I would play in potholes filled with rainwater with my friends. My family was working class. We didn't have much money to pay for living expenses. So I'm running because I want change. When I attended Belen High School, my family didn't have the money to pay for school fees, class fees, field trips. And often teachers would have to pitch in to help me. And I learned early that we need to change some things about that process. I love our culture and our history. After high school, I decided to stay in Valencia County to actually make my place, the place that I live in, a better place to live in. Integrity and honesty are important to me, and I want to lead by example and continue with my proven record in the State House of Representatives.
Thank you. So we'll move to our first question, and we will start this one with you, Mr. Bernal. And I will give you all 90 seconds for your response. Here's the question. How will you determine what issues are most important to your constituents?
All right. Yeah. So first off, by talking to people, right? So knocking on doors, asking people what they think, what their opinions are, no matter who they are, Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, talking to them and speaking to them, seeing what they know, what they feel is important in their heart. And also what has affected me in my life. So, my first thing is public safety. My family's been affected by the violent and repeat crime. My uncle was murdered about 3 years ago, and the criminals who murdered him are out. They're out of prison right now, running free. And we need that to change. We need to crack down on violent and repeat crime. Education, I had mentioned it. My family didn't have a lot of money to start spending on a bunch of class fees and stuff like that. And helping our middle class and working class families is so important because every penny counts. Of course, infrastructure. I grew up on that dilapidated street. I know there are so many neglected communities within Valencia County, Meadow Lake, El Cerro Mission. And for the past 10 years, they've been ignored. by the Republican incumbent. It's time for change, and I'm that change. I have a proven record of improving public safety, of helping those in our schools, and getting things done within the city council like roads and code enforcement.
Thank you. Mrs. Moya, please unmute yourself. Thank you.
How will I find out what's important to my constituents? I think the most important thing is listening and being a part of our community. That is something that I've been doing most of my adult life and definitely for the past 15 years. As far as being a teacher and a coach and showing up to things and listening to the people as they are not only complaining, because we don't usually do a lot of complaining, but having conversations, being someone that people can approach, being someone that people can talk to and feel comfortable talking to, and not someone that they're feeling judged by. So that is one of the biggest things, because people want to tell their story. So if you give them that opportunity to listen, which I'm a people person. That's something that my dad taught me, that there are no strangers. So that comes natural to me, to be able to listen to what people are concerned about, what they are wanting, and then being able to be that person to do. And that is something that I also am, is a doer. And so there will be things done when I hear my constituents and their concerns.
Thank you. The next question, we will start with you, Mrs. Moya. And we'll give you 90 seconds for this question. What is the state legislature's role in ensuring money does not have undue influence in elections and governance? Mrs. Moya.
So undue influence and role. So that would be a bipartisan type of thing. So you're not using money in order to take care of favors. So when there's money going on here, this is the money that's being attributed to any area to our county or any other county. It's there because that's what that money is best used for, not because, let's say, you owe a favor to someone else. And it's definitely difficult a lot of times in a smaller community like we are, because everybody knows everyone. So as far as the state level, it's what's going to benefit our county. It's what's going to benefit our community. It's what's going to benefit our state. That is what this money should be attributed to.
Thank you. Mr. Burnell.
Well, our state legislature has a responsibility of allocating money and taking care of it, right? And when you have lobbyists who come in and try to kind of muddy the waters, it really begins to make it to where people aren't being represented by their representatives. Our responsibility as legislators are to protect and represent our constituents. And that's something I continue to do. As a city councilor, I had someone who donated to my campaign, and when they came to me and expected a favor, I said, too bad. I have a responsibility to continue to represent my constituents how I feel they need to be represented and how they tell me they would like to be represented. So I continue to work like that and have that mindset as a city councilor. My opponent here has accepted money from big oil. When we have an issue with water and farmers, not having enough resources, and when she gets into office, she's going to have to pay back that $10,000 back to the oil industry. And when they come knocking, they're going to expect her to vote how they want her to vote, not how her constituents want her to vote.
Thank you. We're going to continue with a couple more election questions. The next question, I'll give you 60 seconds to respond. And I'm making sure my timekeeper is okay with that. She is. Okay, so 60 seconds. We'll start with you, Mr. Bernal. Here is the question. What do you think of New Mexico's same-day registration law allowing first-time, minor party, or decline to state voters to register in a major party and vote during the primary election? 60 seconds, Mr. Bernal.
I support it. I think if someone feels strongly about a candidate or strongly about a party, I'm totally okay with them going into another party to vote on that same day. My parents are one of those people. They're independents. They lean a little bit conservative, and they brought me up with those conservative values. But ultimately, they want what's best for our community. And they knew that registering with the party, even if it's only for a little while, to influence that election because they feel strongly about a candidate is important to them. Everyone should have the ability to vote how they want and vote in what elections they want. Yes, it takes a little bit of time to get used to the process, but I think it's a perfect thing for our people and for more representation in our communities.
Thank you. Mrs. Moya.
I think I totally support it. I think for far too long, there has been two major parties that only had a voice in our elections. So to allow those to not have to put themselves in a box of one or the other and still be able to have that voice, to be able to back the candidate that they need or that they support, because not some of these other parties, these smaller parties, aren't providing a candidate for them to vote for. So sometimes it's just a Republican or a Democrat candidate. So to be able to back them and be able to change that at that moment, that's letting their voice be heard. And personally, I think everyone in this county's voice should be heard.
Thank you. The next question will also keep it 60 seconds. And we will start the answer with you, Mrs. Moya. Here's the question. What do you think about using alternative voting schemes like ranked choice or approval voting in New Mexico elections? 60 seconds.
I pretty much, to be honest with you, I don't know enough about any of those. What I do find that is very important to our process, and I really think that we should focus more on, is making sure that it's the person that is voting, that it's that person. So we should make sure that it's not being there's no voter fraud anywhere else, and so we should have IDs in order to be able to vote.
Thank you, Mr. Bernal.
Well, first off, I think we need to allow people to have a little bit more representation and continue that theme that we're kind of working off of. I think ranked choice voting is an awesome idea. It allows people to be satisfied with their choice. There have been elections where I didn't want to vote for specific candidates and I would have preferred another candidate over them. But if my candidate didn't get in, I would like the other candidate to get in. So ranked choice is an awesome idea. I'd love to implement it in New Mexico. It's important to dispel of any type of idea that there's voter fraud, especially in Valencia County, where it turned red in 2020. To discount an election like that and to be attacking kind of the people who work hard to ensure our elections are safe and secure is a ridiculous idea and should always be condemned.
Thank you. And the next question, I'm going to increase the response time to 90 seconds. And we will start with you, Mr. Bernal. Here is the question. Do you support term limits for any state offices? And if so, which ones and why?
Yes, I do actually. One of the things that I think is we have that's kind of like a poison in our country is that there aren't term limits on people, especially the Senate and the House in the US elections, but I would 100% support it here in the New Mexico House and Senate. It is hard to get volunteers, and that's the biggest argument against it, especially when you have a citizen legislature like us that isn't paid. But ultimately, what we need to do is limit terms like Senate. I would prefer around 3 terms, which would be 12 years. and for the House of Representatives, six years, 6 terms. And I believe that stuff like the governor already has term limits. It works fine with that. It allows for new people, new ideas, new change. We always talk about our youth and how, oh, we want our youth to be involved, but we never give them the chance to get involved and to run for office, because we have these big incumbents and these big people who have been in office for 40 years, 60 years, and they always get elected. Well, it's time for some change. And when you elect that new people and change, like myself on the city council, they bring and deliver results, because there's a fire underneath them that makes them get things done sooner and quicker, because they don't have as much time as they might have if there are no term limits.
Thank you. Mrs. Moya.
I absolutely approve of term limits, mostly because I am a firm believer that if you can't, let's say if it's, 10 to 12 years, if you can't get done in 10 to 12 years, then why would we keep you there for 20? That's my thing. And we right now, even in our, not only in our state legislature, but in our US Congress and stuff, that we have people in our presidential office, we have people there that have been apart for 40 some years. And what have they done? So that's the thing, is that you need that new voice. You need that new ideas, that new passion, because sometimes we get a little stagnant. And we find that also in education. Sometimes if the teachers that are there for quite a bit, they have to keep renewing their passion. So the same thing happens in our government. We need to be able to get that new vision in there. So term limits are a must, and I would definitely support that in any aspect.
Thank you. Our next question, I think we'll keep at 90 seconds. And we will start the answers with you, Mrs. Moya. Here's the question. How can the legislature ensure continued or improved access to quality, affordable health care for all New Mexicans?
Quality and affordable health care. I think that we should allow the market to decide it. I am not a person that believes that it needs to be the government that decides this. So personally, my belief is that the government needs to get more out of the way instead of in the way, because we don't need to be helping people stay and getting government assistance for a lifetime. When the government, I am one person that utilized government assistance. I was a single mom for a while. So to be able to do that, not only with healthcare or anything else, it should be for a time, not for a lifetime. All right. So it should be the market that should be out there. The more people that are competing for my dollars, the better my healthcare will be, because it'll also be cheaper. The one thing that a lot of these laws that have been made, that have made it more expensive, not less expensive. And they made it harder to access, not easier, unless it's free. And then I have no control over my healthcare. It is the government's control over my healthcare. And that's not something that I desire in any way, shape, or form.
Am I good to go?
I muted myself again. I'm sorry. Mr. Bernal, you. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So, I completely disagree with my opponent. I had stage 4 cancer back in 2011. And, I got to see the bills that came through when I was going through chemo and radiation. And those bills were ridiculous. Coming from a community like ours, where we don't have a lot of people that have a lot of money, we need more affordable healthcare. And that starts with legislation that will, A, provide access to people in rural communities like ours, and also make it affordable by ensuring that there's caps on specific medicines like chemotherapy, insulin, and keeping that consistent within our policy. So, you know, one of the big things here is the hospital. And as a city councilor, I've worked with government, other elected officials within Valencia County, Republican, Democrat, our governor, everybody, in trying to bring that affordable and access to healthcare here in Valencia County. And you know, we're hoping that it comes up soon and that the county commission gets the hospital going and get it built. But we need more affordable healthcare, and I'll be the type of person to help support it.
Thank you. The next question, I'm going to shorten it up to 60 seconds. And we will start with you, Mr. Bernal. Here is the question. How can the state legislature skillfully grapple with climate change in service to current and future New Mexicans? 60 seconds, sir.
Yeah, so one of the things I've done as a city councilor and mayor pro tem is I helped approve a 108-acre solar farm just south of Las Tunas. And, you know, I do not want us to get rid of our oil and gas. I'm fine with the established oil and gas, but we need to diversify as a state so that in case a bad day in the oil industry happens, it's not a bad year or multiple years for our state and our communities. So investing in infrastructure like those solar panels is extremely important because not only does it help our environment and it doesn't pollute our air or even possibly poison our water, it is an energy that can be even at some point allowed to be given free to our communities. And that's needed. I can't stress enough how much our community is not the richest. And if we could have something like that, it'll help.
Thank you. Mrs. Moya.
Climate change is pretty important. I get to teach it in my physics classes, and we get to have quite a few conversations with my students. So we go over it quite a bit, but I think that offering, me personally, we just decided to go solar in our home. And there is incentives that the state has offered for us to be able to do that. But the process was so difficult to get the so-called benefits in order to be able to help, recover some of the costs, that it was ridiculous. So I think one of the first things that we can do is not only invest in these on a grander scale, but also develop an easier process so that more and more people will come and will turn to alternative energy to heat and power their homes. Right now, it's a difficult process and it's not really feasible for most people.
Thank you. The next question, and I again apologize to my timekeeper. I'm going to bump it up to 90 seconds. And we will start the answers with Mrs. Moya. This is the question. What 3 issues are most important to you, and what legislation would you support or propose on those issues? 90 seconds.
Wow, 90 seconds for all those. Well, first of all, the 3 major issues is first and foremost education, and then public safety, and then our economy. So for me, for education is a huge one because I am an educator. So that was it's going to directly affect me. For me, it is making sure our classrooms are completely funded. Right now, as an educator, as a teacher at the high school, I spend upwards of about $1,000 of my own money in order to have the right kind of equipment that we need. And that's something that happens across the state. Public safety. We need to not only deal with repealing catch and release, and we also need to make sure that our departments are funded properly. But we also need to invest in the mental health to take care of that root problem of most of the crimes that are committed out there. So if we can deal with the mental health and take care of and have more help for our substance abuse to be able to fund all these places across the state, then a lot of the crime that is going on right now would stop. It would no longer be there. And the third thing, really quick, is going to be, oh gosh, what did I say? Public safety is our economy. We need to bring more jobs here to New Mexico, so that way our children don't have to leave to be successful.
Thank you. Mr. Bernal.
Well, my priorities are so good that my opponent copied them almost verbatim. It's public safety, education, and the economy and infrastructure. As a Belen City councilor, I fully funded our police department. I helped support a new police chief that came in and improved morale and brought down crime within our city. So I've done it, and I'm ready to continue to do it in the legislature. You know, I had already mentioned the school fees and the class fees. It's a burden on our working class families. And, you know, I know that if we can truly get rid of stuff like that, class fees, and either cap them or don't allow schools to ban kids from walking the line when they can't pay their fees. That's such an important thing to me. It's so close to my heart that I raised over $7,000 with my good friend with Republican legislators to be able to help fund our schools' children. And like I said, I grew up on a horrible road. We need to use the infrastructure money that's coming in now and that I have used as a city councilor to continue to fund our neglected communities and people, because you can't just leave people in the dark like that. And I know that if my opponent's elected, it'll be another 10 years of that darkness.
Thank you. Excuse me. The next question, I'm going to change it up again to 60 seconds. My timekeeper's going to hate me. And we will start the answers with you, Mr. Bernal. Here is the question, 60 seconds. How do you feel about the Public Education Department's current program to evaluate teachers, schools, and student success? 60 seconds.
So far, I've heard from teachers that it could be kind of a intensive process. And how we solve the issue is we sit down and we talk with not just the teachers, the educators, we sit down and talk with the administrators, we talk with our students, and we ask them what they need in order to be able to have a smoother process for everybody. You know, when I was in high school, I remember my teachers stressing about their reviews and how things will get done. And if we want to keep our teachers in classrooms, we need to make their lives easier. And we start that by ensuring that the policy that's in place truly is helping them, our students, and our administrations. Thank
you. Mrs. Moya.
I'm going to be the first person to say that right now our evaluation system is flawed. I live it. I've lived it for the past 10 years. Actually was able to be in many different facets in education. So I do understand so many different avenues other than just being in the classroom. But right now, as far as the evaluation system, there's some parts that I think we can keep, but there's a lot of it that we need to throw out with the bathwater. Because even for our going in through to the tier system, having to do a long, grueling dossier, which we have to find the spare time in order to be able to do it. With having like I currently I'm teaching 180 kids a day, so to be having to grade that, do that, and then have to come up and find the time in order to prove that I'm an efficient enough teacher to move to the next tier, where my master's degree should speak for itself.
Thank you. And the next question I'll keep at 60 seconds for its response. And we will start with you, Mrs. Moya. This is the question. What can the legislature do to keep New Mexicans safe from gun violence, and how will you support these measures? Mrs. Moya.
See, I don't know how much laws are going to keep us from gun violence. To be honest with you, I am a staunch Second Amendment right proponent. So I personally believe that it is more the fact that we have lost a value for life. So if we can figure out how to teach that value for life again, then because all the laws in the world, it's only going to take them from law-abiding citizens, not from the people that are wanting to commit crimes. People don't follow the laws anyway. Right now, it's unlawful to shoot someone. So if it's a tool, it is not the answer. And so that is something that that we will have to talk about our culture more than putting more laws in place that people aren't following in the first place.
Thank you, Mr. Bernal.
So the big thing is investing in our youth, because a lot of the violent crime that happens and the violent crime that affected my family is done by youth. And you know, that money that I said I raised for kids, the remainder of that money we invested right back into our community to help our youth. $3,500 right into that Rocket Teen Center that the county commission candidates were talking about earlier. Another thing is mental health. We need to invest in proper access to mental health and affordable access to mental health. Now, my opponent already made it clear that she won't try to protect those type of people that can't afford basic mental health and needs. So we need to invest in those, though. It's important to, because we need to help people who don't have the access. I am a pro Second Amendment person. I own a gun. I'm a gun owner. You know, it's not a gun problem. It's sometimes a people and youth problem. And we have to invest in our community so that they could truly improve.
Thank you. Okay, the next question, again, I'm going to bump it around up to 90 seconds. And we will start the answer with you, Mr. Bernal. What about the current state ethics commission is working, and what does not work, and how would you fix that? 90 seconds, Mr. Bernal.
Well, from what we're seeing, it's not working. You know, I don't want to get involved in something that's not my cup of tea, but you know, there's an issue right now with a senator who has an alleged violation of ethics. And what we need to do is we need to go in and truly overhaul how we handle these situations, especially with the public, because when we look at the public, when the public looks at us, I mean, you know, they're seeing through the looking glass and it's not always a perfect, clear picture. We have to have some transparency with the public and be able to, at the same time, protect the privacy of others, but also make sure that they're understanding these processes and that they're able to kind of follow it a lot closer than what we're seeing right now with the state legislator that it happened with most recent state legislator. So I think that part of that is, like I said, transparency and having legislators that are willing to create that policy that have kind of a little bit more experience than I would in the state legislature, and really talk to them to see what the issues are and what we can do to tackle those issues. Because, you know, going in as a freshman legislator, you know, I won't have that knowledge of the exact process because I'm not on that committee.
Thank you. Mrs. Moya.
This is always a hard subject because when you're dealing with your ethics committee, you're dealing with those that you have elected to do a job for you and to represent you that have now done something that is not ethical. And so same thing happens in education. We've all heard of many times where things in many facets in our lives where people are either writing that line or crossing over the line of what can be ethical. So I think that something that we can do is make sure that we're training our people and giving that information out. And sometimes the gray line gets skewed, which I personally don't understand how it does, because I'm more of a black and white type of person. So right is right and wrong is wrong. And so but I think a lot of people, because they flirted with that gray line, as long as we make sure that our lines are cleared and that there's consequences to those that cross it, I think that there'll be less people that will flirt with that gray line. So that's my thing, is make sure there's consequences for people that are actually going to be ethically doing something wrong.
Thank you. The next question will also be 90 seconds. And we will start with you, Mrs. Moya, to answer this. What kinds of projects would you consider allocating your capital outlay funds to? 90 seconds, please.
I am big with youth, so that is usually my focus. That is my adult career. There is many things, if we can keep the youth busy and then train them in order to be able to utilize the brains that God gave them in a manner that is conductive, then a lot of the issues that we won't be having. Now, I'm already working on, with the contacts that I've made, I'm already working on putting some STEM centers in a couple of elementary schools in Valencia County. Now, these are STEM centers that are starting with, they're in the elementary, so it starts even from pre-K on, and they get all these amazing tools in order to be able to play with, which I personally want to start playing with them myself. But we have enough funding right now in order to be able to do one in Las Lunas and one in Belen. So one of the major things that I want to do is, once we can get those ones in, is to fund them for all of the elementary schools. So that way that those of us science teachers, when we get them at the high school, they have so much more of a leg up. And it helps not only with their education, but it helps with their communication skills, and then ignites that passion for them to be able to have an idea of what they want to do when they get older.
Thank you, Mr. Bernal.
So the main thing is listening to the communities and seeing what they asked for, right? As a Belen City Councilor and the Mayor Pro Tem, I know what Belen needs. You know, we need flooding, we need flood control. We need a new VREC system, which is important for our dispatch units. And for areas like Meadow Lake and El Cerro Mission, we need lighting and we need roads. That is infrastructure capital outlay. That's what we need to invest in. And for places like Las Lunas, I know that the Jubilee has been asking for a sound barrier for all the vehicle traffic going past them and having to be kept up by that type of stuff. We need to invest in proper infrastructure that continues to do that stuff. And one of the other things that I've been real passionate about since I've started getting involved for quite some time now is ensuring that we're protecting our history and investing in our history. So cleaning up dilapidated buildings that are historic and turning them into a place that could actually be sustainable and kept up correctly. So not only will stuff like the lighting that I had mentioned with Meadow Lake and El Cerro help just with seeing, it'll also, like I said earlier, help reduce stuff like violent crime and criminal activity. So capital outlay is extremely important, and there's plenty of money to go around in this next session, and the junior appropriations will help with that.
Thank you. Okay, now my timekeeper is really going to hate me. I'm going to ask two quick questions before we get to closing remarks. And the next two questions will each be 30 seconds. So the candidates are going to have to think on your feet quickly. So 30 seconds, and we'll start this question with Mr. Bernal. How will you communicate with your constituents to keep them informed?
Well, I'm already doing that, right? As a city councilor and a mayor pro tem, ensuring that my number is available, ensuring that city staff are available, and knocking on doors is so important. You know, in the past elections that I ran in, I knocked on almost every door in the city, asking citizens what they think. So just being available is so important. And when I'm a state legislator, answering that phone and talking to my constituents directly to see what they think about the legislation being introduced.
Thank you. Mrs. Moya, 30 seconds.
In order to keep them informed, I definitely want to start, and I've already started it now, but I also want to start to and continue it, have listening tours throughout the county. So to be able to talk with my constituents, let them know what's going on, and hearing their concerns and letting them know how I can help them with their concerns in Santa Fe.
Thank you. And nice job, you two. That's hard to do in 30 seconds. I apologize. So our next 30-second question will be this, and we will start with you, Mrs. Moya. As a citizen, what have you done that impacted or made a difference in Valencia County? 30 seconds.
I have coached and poured my heart into so many students. One of them being a Girls on the Run. I actually, in that process, Girls on the Run empowers young women in order to be able to be who they are and find their strength in who they are. And through that program, I was actually able, really quick, specifically helping one student who was going through so many issues, personal issues, helped her find her passion as far as running. And so her mom actually at one point in time told me that I actually saved her life.
Thank you. Now our closing statements will be next, and I'll give
Oh,
you.
wait, I didn't get to answer.
Oh, I'm sorry,
the
Mr.
question.
Bernal. No wonder I hadn't crossed you off. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Bernal.
So before I was elected to the city council, I was getting involved in my community as a young person, 17 years old, and actually way before when I was a freshman in high school, and getting involved in our community directly and volunteering. I wasn't paid for any of this stuff. I'm still paid very little for what I do. A lot of it is volunteerism. And as a citizen, I'll continue to volunteer my time because we're not paid in the legislature, and continuing to ensure that people are heard and seen is so important.
Thank you so much, and I apologize for missing you. So now we'll go to our closing statements, and as promised earlier, you will each have 90 seconds to make your closing statements, and we will start with you, Mr. Bernal.
Well, again, I want to thank the League of Women Voters. I want to thank Tanya for joining us here and having a forum. So I hope what a lot of you have seen today is the difference between experience and inexperience. As a city councilor, I'm not telling you I will. I'm telling you I have done, and I will continue to do as a legislator. Because when you have the experience and the knowledge that I do, it's an informed experience when you take it to the legislature and you are able to represent your people almost perfectly. And we'll always be able to have some improvements here and there. But one of the things that we've seen is that Valencia County has continued to turn red over time. And for 10 years, a Republican has held this seat. Where has it gotten Valencia County? Almost nowhere. Our neglected communities continue to stay neglected. And my opponent's mentor, Kelly Fajardo, she'll just be an exact copy. We need change. I have a proven record. Even if, I wasn't a city councilor and didn't have this experience, I'm a Democrat. And right now, Democrats control the legislature and the executive branch and judicial branch. I can work with those Democrats to help my constituents. I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Moya.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, for you two beautiful ladies that thank you for my timekeeper over here that's been smiling the whole time. And for our moderator, I appreciate this opportunity. I want to not only thank the League of Women Voters, but all of you constituents out there that sat here and listened to these 2 hours. We've had some great stuff. I am here because I am the first one that'll tell you I am not used to politics, okay? But I am one of you. I don't desire to make this my career. This is not what I want to do. I am a teacher. I am a mother. I am a grandmother, and I am a coach. Those are the titles that I hold dear because those are the ones that make a difference in our community. Now, I do believe that I have what it takes in order to make it to Santa Fe and to be able to represent my community, because I understand the weight of my decisions. I have enough experience. Some call it wisdom. I call it age. I got a little gray hair in here, but I have enough experience to understand that I've made those decisions for my family. I've made those decisions for my classroom. And I understand that when I make the wrong ones, many people suffer because of it. It's not just about me. And so I have that experience. And especially with my passion with education, you don't send a politician to fix an education system. You send an educator.
Thank you. And that concludes our sessions for the Valencia County Forum races that we covered in tonight's forum. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Central New Mexico, we thank the audience for your participation tonight. An informed and effective democracy needs you all. Don't forget to check out vote411.org. Thank you to all of the League members who made this forum work. Linda Miller for being our Zoom webinar host and tech master, our timekeeper extraordinaire, Mary Templeton, and our question reviewers, Stacy Tompkins and Michelle Metters, and all of the League members who helped with the logistics. And finally, I thank all of the candidates, not only for their participation in tonight's forum, but also for their participation in the democratic process. It is at the local level that democracy really begins. So thank you all for coming tonight. Have a good evening and don't forget to vote. Thank you. Good night, everyone.